Hello and welcome to a build video featuring our amazing Axial SMT10. Now in the last few episodes you will have seen us bashing this amazing truck around, and in the last episode you will have seen us fitting these RC 4-wheel drive wheel wideners to each of the four corners, and these instantly gave the truck a much better monster truck scale feel, and I think made it a lot more fun to drive. They also meant that we could put much bigger tyres on without the inside wall of the wheels interfering with any of the steering linkages, which is really good. But in this video and the coming videos, some more modifications, some of them essential and some of them just to show you what's available. So we'll be fitting these heavy duty bevel gears, part number AX30395, and these are from Axial, official parts. What we also have is a spare 32 pitch 12 tooth steel pinion gear. And what we will be fitting today, the SSD heavy duty gear set. And we've read some excellent reviews on these, so hopefully once we fit these, we can start ramping up the power and fit in a brushless motor. And finally, what we'll be fitting are again these SSD drive linkages, titanium, and hopefully these will get rid of some of this massive amount of play in the front steering linkages. Not so much the up and down movement, but the side to side movement. You can see there's a lot of play there, and you lose a lot of energy from the steering servo, and even a tiny little bit of force there will push one of the tyres in. So hopefully the new ones will be a lot more rigid. Now what we haven't shown you is that one or some of the gears inside the centre gearbox have broken, and it sounds like some of the teeth have broken or something's not quite right in there, and this is the moment it happened. The bottom of the chassis just got caught on a stick, so that's not the reason they broke, but after around a year of exclusively 3S LiPo running, that's about where they gave up. And as you can hear, if we turn the truck upside down, something in there is definitely not right and is cracking around. So what we've done is remove the front plate, and we've done that with our nice long screwdrivers that we've got, just to check that there's nothing in the spur gear or the pinion which is making that noise, and there isn't. So the next stage is to remove the whole centre gearbox. So firstly, if we remove the motor cables, just so that we can lift that whole centre assembly out. Now actually, initially I thought this centre bit was held in by the side screws too, but all that's holding it in place are these 4 screws, which is really good and gives you nice easy access. However, what I don't like is that these are really short screws going straight into plastic, so be really careful when you're tightening them back up not to over tighten them and damage the plastic thread, because if you do, then that's pretty much game over and you'll need a new gearbox casing. You can bodge it by putting some sort of epoxy resin in the holes and then re-screwing back into there, but I don't think it's ever quite the same as the original. So do be careful when you're screwing them back in. But if we remove those 4, you can see the gearbox housings start to loosen up and drop down. And if we pull these shafts out here, which just slide out, there you go, that's it, our centre gearbox with the 27 turn motor on it. And you can just hear that grinding and cracking coming from inside the gearbox. So let's open it up and see what we've got. Now the first thing you want to do is remove these grub screws here to release the shafts. And again, don't lose the screws, and what we like to do before we got our magnetic mat was just keep all the screws on the end of a magnet, and then all you need to do is find all the screws and loosen them off. And there you go, that will expose the inside of the gearbox. And straight away you can see that center gear there in the middle has, as expected, stripped. So this is the assembly we're going to be changing. Now that one actually doesn't seem bad at all, but as you can see on here, there's not much left of those teeth. And the conversion kit does include all these gears, so you want to remove them all. With this top one, what you're going to need to do is remove the spur gear and the slipper clutch assembly, which is pretty easy. Just remove this nut here, like that. And this whole plate here will lift off, leaving the motor mount and the motor. Then remove this spacer. And the bearing. And that gear will just fall off there. Make sure you don't lose the pin on the end of the shaft as well. And with all that out of the way, we can take a look at the new kit and see what we've got. So, if we open it up, we have got a big gear and two smaller gears, with some bearings too. Which actually I thought looked bigger than the stock ones, but I don't think they are. And look at that for a gear. I don't think we'll have any problems with this handling a low turned brushless motor and 3S. So let's fit this first. What we want to do is remove the old one. And the screws are quite tight in there, so what we're going to do is use Loctite when we put them back on. And you've got these two side plates here, and again they just attach onto each side of the new gear, and you can see where the holes line up. Then, because we don't think we'll ever unscrew this, and because they're inside the gearbox and you don't want anything to come loose, we're going to be using some Loctite to keep the screws nice and tight in place. So put a dab on there and screw everything back together. And that's it. Next, we have our broken gear to replace, so get the new gear and the new bearings for that, fit them in, making sure that there's no grit or dirt around the components when you are assembling them. And finally, we can fit this gear back on, and this is driven by the spur gear, so put the pin back in. Slide the gear on, put the shaft back through the gearbox housing and fit this plate on here with the spacer. Put your motor mount on. And finally, your slipper pad, clutch plate, spur gear, spring and nut, and that will hold everything together in place. Then drop your centre gear in, and finally this big old one here will just slot in there like that. Now regarding the inside of the gearbox, you don't actually need to mesh any of the gears because everything is fixed in place and the mesh should already be perfect. And you can't adjust anything in there anyway. The only mesh you might want to double check before you put everything back together is the spur and pinion gear. Even though you haven't removed the motor from the mount, something may have moved around, so do check that out. But with that done, that's it. Put everything back together. Install the gearbox into the truck, making sure not to over tighten the screws. Reconnect your motor and also remember to slide in the shafts too. And that's it, you're done, ready to go. And one thing I like to do is just do a super slow static test with the wheels off the ground, just giving the truck a little bit of throttle and listening to hear that nothing is grinding or sounds like it's out of place or the gears are catching somewhere. And when you're happy with that, you can go full power, ripping it about. But that's it. Super simple and a quick job. These gears should last us years and I can't wait to try this truck out and see what it's got. And we will be showing you some more action with this in the coming videos. But that's it. I hope you've got an idea of what kind of gears you can use with this truck and what you'll need to fit if you're thinking of going brushless. And in the next few episodes we will be going brushless and showing you that. So please do rate, comment and subscribe for more content and share this video. Thank you for watching and see you soon.